Alrighty, now we're ready for body paragraph number 3. Body paragraph number 3 is unique in that you are not continuing on with your argument. Instead, this is where you're going to stop for just a minute and you are going to acknowledge that somebody else might have a different point of view. The different point of view, or the point that would argue against your point, is called the counterpoint. So simply stated, the counterpoint is just thinking about what other people would say against what you're trying to say. Every single argument essay needs to have a counterpoint and a counterargument. So think about, okay, what's the argument against the claim that you have made? That's going to be your counterpoint. In our example about school uniforms, that students should wear school uniforms, if you're arguing that students should wear school uniforms, then obviously the counterpoint is going to be that students should not wear school uniforms. Okay, so it's just simply whatever the point is made that is going to argue with your point. Sometimes the counterpoint is the exact opposite. So like in this case, we're saying, yes, students should wear uniforms, and then the counterpoint would be, no, students should not. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite, and sometimes it's just a different perspective, because you could have several different types of counterpoints. It just depends on what it is you're arguing. But for the sake of our example, the counterpoint would be that students should not wear student uniforms. Okay. So if the counterpoint says that you should not wear school uniforms, then you as the writer need to acknowledge a reason or two why people might think that you shouldn't wear a school uniform. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tell them why your overall argument is still better than theirs. That's called the counterargument. Now, I know it might seem weird to bring up things that are kind of arguing against your argument, but this is why presenting the counterpoint and the counterargument helps to build your own ethos. If you go back to the tutorial that we were talking about with rhetorical strategies, one of the things that ethos does is it builds the credibility of the writer, and your reader needs to know that you have not only done your research and you know what you're talking about, but you know what you're talking about well enough to where if somebody was going to argue with you, that you would still be able to say, you know, I see your point and I recognize that that point is a valid point, but it doesn't matter if your point is a valid point because all of my points are still better than yours. Okay, so this is the tool of, you know, any kind of an effective argument, whether it's in writing or whether it's in debate, is you want to make sure that you do acknowledge other people's perspectives and other points of view, but you still have enough ammunition under your belt to where you can come through and present an argument that's even better. Okay, that's called the counter argument. So it looks kind of like this. Okay, so we're going to acknowledge their counterpoint. And so we're going to say, this would be a statement in our pretend body paragraphs that we're working on today. So we're going to say, while many consider school uniforms a simple solution to daily problems, see, that's one of the things that we've been arguing all along, others see uniforms as an infringement upon individual expression. So that point that is underlined right here, this is the counterpoint, right? This is what all you guys would say if I said today, oh, guess what? You're going to start wearing a uniform to school. You would be like, no, I don't want to wear a uniform to school because it, you know, stifles my creativity and it prevents me from expressing myself as an individual. That's almost always what students say. So the counterpoint is right here. So what we need to do to write an effective counterargument is we need to acknowledge that people think this, but then we're going to give reasons why, even though people think this and it might be true, our argument is still better. Okay, so this is where we're going to present our counterargument. So we'll start off by saying it might be true that they eliminate certain types of expression that can be made through clothing style choices, but uniforms actually help students develop more meaningful expressions of their individuality by focusing on their personalities, communication style, and intellect instead of their fashion. Okay, so you see what we did? We took, here's the point that others are trying to make, that uniforms infringe upon individual expression. We're saying, okay, yeah, it might be true. However, even though it's true, this is something that's even better about our side of the argument from your side of the argument. So what that looks like then in a paragraph form is this. Oh, before we jump there, let me just remind you that for the purposes of our paper, what I really want you to do is I want you to focus on using pathos to support your counterargument. Pathos is, that idea of incorporating emotion into your writing, but still in a way so that it's academic. And so in order to establish pathos, you can use imagery, figurative language, description, tone, mood, allusions. But basically what you're doing is you're using ideas and imagery that really appeal to emotions. So you want people to feel sympathy, empathy. You want them to feel some type of way. And so this is where you're going to really hit home with using that pathos in order to convince somebody that you are correct. Okay, so here we go. So what I've done here is I've used the same color coding as what I've used throughout the rest of this presentation. And so the first sentence here is in black. This is just simply our transition statement going from body paragraph 2 to body paragraph 3. Okay, and then in blue is going to be the counterpoint. Red is going to be my counter argument, and then all this in green here is just going to be further support using pathos to really appeal to sympathy, empathy, and to emotions. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. My transition statement is, while many consider school uniforms a simple solution to daily problems, others see uniforms as an infringement upon individual expression. So here's our counterpoint. It might be true that they eliminate some types of personal expression. Here's another transition statement, right? But we're transitioning into our counterargument. But uniforms actually help students develop more meaningful expression of their individuality by focusing on their personalities, communication style, and intellect instead of their fashion. And now I'm going to really bring it home, and I'm going to lay it all out, and I'm going to include emotions, and I'm going to make sure that people understand why it's a good thing emotionally for people to wear uniforms. And here's what it's going to say. After all, students who experience negative peer pressure and even bullying because they are not able to purchase expensive, trendy clothes often find themselves in deep depression. These students often feel isolated and rejected, their loneliness preventing them from demonstrating their true natural abilities and creativity. School uniforms can actually be a protective defense for these students, shielding them from unnecessary stress and anxiety and allowing them to freely express their individuality in an environment of inclusivity and acceptance. After all, appreciation of diversity and inclusive behavior begins when people can focus on individual value and not be distracted by superficial things like clothing. So you can see here that the writing here focuses on appealing to someone's emotions. Like, okay, look, you don't want somebody to be bullied, you don't want somebody to feel depressed, you don't want somebody to feel rejected, and so just taking away all of the trendy clothes and all the things that cause people to get picked on sometimes, and putting everybody in the same kind of clothes lets people's true individuality and expression come through. And because isn't it really supposed to be about your inside and not about what you have on the outside? So this is a really good example. We've got a transition statement, we've got the counterpoint, we have our counter argument, and then we have really hammered it home using pathos to express that counter argument. That is the end of our tutorial for the 3 body paragraphs. So just quickly, let me review that. The first body paragraph, I want you to use your first reason that you're that is supporting your thesis statement, and you're going to use ethos to really flesh out that particular part of your argument. Your second body paragraph is going to be the second reason that you're arguing your particular claim in your thesis statement, and you're going to use logos, that's all the facts, figures, and statistics, to flesh out your argument in that paragraph. And then here in your third paragraph is where you are going to use pathos to acknowledge the counterpoint or counter argument, but you're really going to make your case for people supporting your particular cause. Now, let me just say that in your example of your essay that you're writing, which is different from our example here, the third paragraph is where you want to talk about your charity. Okay, so for example, you might say that a counterpoint would be to account, like we looked at when we were looking at the slide presentation about whether or not you should give to like the homeless, that there were some examples, some really good reasons why not to give to homeless people, right? And so that's where you would bring out a counterpoint. So you would say that some people believe that giving money to the homeless just continues to support their addictions or to enable their indigent lifestyle. So that might be a counterpoint. But then what you're going to do is you're going to use your argument is going to be that this particular organization that you are supporting, your charity, whether it's the Salvation Army, whether it's some local homeless shelter, that they are really doing it right. Like they are supporting the homeless people in the right way. They're preventing suicide. They're helping them get recovery from addiction. They're they're helping these people get a second chance at life, whatever it is that they're doing. So your counter argument needs to bring out your charity. Okay, so you're going to say some people think that we shouldn't support X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, your topic, but these people, the charity that you're supporting, are really doing a good job with it, and they're doing a good job by, and then that's where you bring in all of your ideas about, saving puppies, saving the planet, saving people, saving the water, whatever it is that your topic is. Okay, so that's where it goes. If you have any questions about all of that, let me know. I will be available tomorrow during office hours from 11 o'clock until 2 o'clock. So anytime between 11 and 2, from 10 to 11, I'm working with a different one of my classes, but I can be there for you guys between 11 and 2. All you have to do is just beep in, and I'll be at my Google channel. So good luck, and I will talk to you on Wednesday face to face.